Good evening, everyone. Let's say there was a bunch of angry wolves. My name is Jerry. I'm a volunteer with Wildlife of Wisconsin, Manitowoc Area Rehabilitation. And tonight we're here to talk about wildlife capture, restraint, and transport. Just a really quick background. Wildlife of Wisconsin's been in existence for almost 30 years now. And it's not me. We're going to go through some quick slides. We'll have a little pause in the middle. But I guess part of what we're going to try to do, besides educate you, is in a little bit to take and scare you, because some of what we do is not really for the faint of heart. So what is wildlife rehab? Interactive part. What comes to mind?
Animals get better,
Helping animals get better.
to be released back out into the wild.
So we take care of injured. So this bird was caught in fishing line, got stuck in a tree. Our guess is he was probably moments away from drowning because of the way he was moving around. So we take care of injured, orphaned, and sick animals. So this eagle came from southern Manitowoc County 2 years ago with the ultimate goal of releasing them back to the wild. So that is the same eagle that was in that picture that didn't think was going to make it through the night, but with a lot of TLC, this was a successful release. And this was a very busy slide, but really what I want to take and touch on is volunteers. Everybody in the organization is a volunteer. We have 0 paid staff. Any money we make is made through donations, through doing programs. All of that money goes to taking care of the animals in their food and their caging. What we don't get through those 2 sources comes out of our paycheck because we believe in what we're doing, and this is what we do. So, patient transporter or rescuer. And I will apologize because this is the first time we're putting this on, so a lot of what we're doing is going to be right off the screen. So a transporter, really someone who's just going to pick up an animal and move it. So a transporter is going to be called by WOW to take and pick up an animal that's already contained in a box or a carrier from someone's home. Going to transport the animal to WOW's facility or to a place where we decide to take and meet if we're in the area already. And occasionally we do network with other rehabilitators around the state. So we may have to take and have an animal brought to another facility, or we'll get an animal from them. It is networking, and we do have foster animals, and so do they. So it's best if we get those animals to learn how to live with the same species. A rescuer is someone who's going to be trained in capturing the animal. And okay, capture animals, bring them to a designated shelter. We do encourage anyone who's going to be a rescuer to have their tetanus shot up to date. So we're going to start just going through some things dealing with transporting animals. So stress kills these animals. We look like predators to these guys. So we need to take and minimize a lot of things that are going to be bothering these guys. And one of them is just physical. Them seeing us, having us touch them is not good for the wildlife that we're picking up. Orphan ones may not know what's going on, but any adult animals, they're going to be really scared. And so just touching them is just not a really great thing for any of them. Stressors, hot, cold. Okay, so noise, radio conversation. If you are being a transporter and you're going to be moving animals around, they don't need the noise of a radio. I can't say even just a soft radio station is going to be good for them because they're in an unknown condition. They're in a box in a carrier. They're going to be scared and nervous. So any kind of noise in the vehicle, even people talking, could be an issue that these animals may not be able to survive for. A sturdy ventilated container. One thing is a transporter is you don't want these guys getting out in your car. You know, some of them are gonna be easy to find, but that little tiny bird, when he gets out under a seat, under a dashboard, it's not something you're gonna want. So one thing of looking at the animals that you're gonna be transporting, no, they can get out. There are stories of people who just wanted to peek in the box and see what was in there. And there was an animal that spears fish for a living and saw something and poked him in the eye with their beak. It's like rescuing and transporting can't just be considered easy to do gentle things all the time. Too hot, too cold. An animal in the sun is going to start getting overheated. In the winter, to have it in a car on the floor where it's going to be cold, the animal is going to get that much more stress in its life that it doesn't need to overcome these things. So just a nice, comfortable, warm environment where we're going to be comfortable is going to where the animals are going to be comfortable. And having the container secured in place. One thing, as I was learning stuff with our educational animals, and we transport them in crates, the organization where I learned from said they would take their young handlers and they would get a van, they would get some refrigerator cardboard shipping containers, and they put them in the back of the van and have their volunteers stand up and pretend you're an animal in a transport carrier, and then have someone drive and they criticize. If you stop too fast, you accelerate, you turn, these animals are moving around. Again, another stress. They need to be kept safe, and if the thing is secured, they're not going to be moving around. They're going to be a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, so in other words, you would end up getting a kennel or a box or whatever you're going to put the animal in. You don't want it too big. We prefer to have the animal sitting, like a great blue heron. We don't care to have him standing because potential for him getting more injured. And again, you don't want him crammed where he can't even move, or you don't put his head up at all. So you need to figure out an appropriate kennel or something. And we will, for those of you who wish to continue and do this with us, we will get you some of the pet taxis and so forth, okay?
And also, if you do take and volunteer, we will, using your email, get you a more information, because this is just gleaning the surface of what we want to have people know. So there's a lot more, and just something we don't want to take and just hand out all the time. So rescuing an animal. So the number one thing with rescuing an animal is people's safety comes first. I can't stress it enough, and we'll see it a couple more times through here. As a rehabilitator, if I get hurt, I cannot take care of animals. If I can't take care of animals, that means there's some out there that may be suffering that could get help. So safety is always the number one. In my line of work, one thing we don't talk about a lot is common sense. So common sense in wildlife rehab really does make sense. You know, safety isn't walking on a potentially incomplete frozen river to take and climb a ladder that's old and rickety. Things that are going to be unsafe for you to take and do for a rescue just should not be done, because we don't want anyone getting hurt. For animals, never assume the animal's going to respond the way you want them to. They are wild creatures. They will, oh, there we go, safety first. I'm not watching my own presentation. I'm reading what I have on here instead. So we talked about safety, have a plan. As we get through the animals, and if you're going to go and do a rescue, we're going to be giving you more information about what the animal is and contact information for them. But eventually, as you start getting used to doing rescues, you're going to come up with a plan. If it's going to be trying to catch a goose, you know there's going to be certain things you have to do to take and get a goose captured. If you're going after a fox or a raccoon, you know you're going to have different equipment than what you're going to be doing for the goose. So proper equipment, that we'll be covering in the slides as we go through them. We do have some examples of some of the equipment. We'll be talking about some, and we'll be doing more when we show this out. Zoonotic diseases. these guys aren't all sterile. So they do carry things. We can get sick from wildlife. That doesn't mean we shouldn't help them. We just need to be aware of what these guys can give to us or what we can give to them. So simple things of just washing hands in a rehabilitator's life is very normal. To wear gloves to take and handle animals is very normal. So we need to be aware of how we can get sick from them and make sure we're using the proper PPE to take and keep that from happening. Be prepared. Education is a big thing of being prepared, having all the right tools. If you do get injured by an animal, this is where, again, common sense. If they poke you, if you get a scratch, it's wash it, treat it correctly, contact your physician to take and see if there's anything else you should be doing. I am not a veterinarian, I just have standard first aid. So there's things I know I can't do, and there's things I know that if I get hurt, my doctor's gonna have to take care of for me or give me advice on what to do. So the common sense things, if an animal's dealing with a power line that's down, that's not us. That's getting somebody else involved who can take care of the power in those power lines before we're gonna do anything. Using the correct PPE to protect from getting bitten or scratched. Don't let people come and watch what you're doing. They can stand over on the side and stay out of the way, but don't let them come and help. If you're gonna be a rescuer and you're gonna get some training, you're gonna know what to avoid, what you can do. You don't want someone who doesn't know anything about what's happening to assist you and potentially get hurt. And if there's ever a question, get a hold of one of the licensed rehabilitators, some of our volunteers that are in the room, which we'll introduce in a little bit, and get some extra advice, get some extra help. There are things you do not want to take and do alone when dealing with wildlife rescue. Okay, first things first, planning the capture. This is where Wildlife of Wisconsin will get a call from the public, be it the layperson, the sheriff, the warden, that there's a situation. It's going to be screened by Wildlife of Wisconsin volunteers, and then if it's needed to be rescued, someone would be contacting one of you to take and see if it's in your skill set and you have the equipment, are you willing to take and help? And no is an okay answer. Every time you get a call, you do not have to take and say, yes, I will go and help you. But you're going to want to know things. Where is the animal? What type of animal? What's going on with it? Is it just a goose stuck in fishing line, or is it a goose that has a broken wing or a broken leg? Is it bleeding? What kind of help may it need once you do get your hands on it? What is the name, the address, the phone number of the person who may be calling it in case there's more information needed? We might get an address and you get there and there's no animal, but oh, it was in the field across the street from the address, down in the ditch, and they didn't let us know that, but at least they can be contacted to get more information as to what's going on. So with all of that, have a plan, start getting an idea of what this animal needs to take and be captured with, what type of equipment, do you need help? Be ready for things to change. Keeping your eyes open, keeping your ears open with these animals when they're moving around. When you're getting close to them, their reactions are going to change because we are a predator. So we're going to do our best to keep the situation calm so it's easy on them so they don't get stressed, but we do need to take and help them out. So as you're there and you're looking at the animal, watch what they're doing. They're looking to try to get away. So if you can take a look around and say, where may they go to escape me? You may have to change your plan to keep them from going to that pile of brush that you might not be able to get into. So it's always a constantly moving game. So approaching the animal slowly, quietly. Some animals maybe a little calm, just with a smooth, low talking to them, just to take and try to make them feel comfortable. Having visual barriers, to take and see a person is one thing, but to take and see a sheet coming at them is something different. The sheet may not be as menacing as what a person may be. We found through years a fishing net seems to be a trigger to just about everything, that something bad is gonna happen soon. So fishing nets are always something that make a situation change. Work at keeping the animal away from hazards. Said that animal is across the street, down in a ditch, is don't go around it to where it's gonna wanna run up into traffic. So again, think of what this animal needs to do to get captured, but do it in a way that the animal and you can both be safe. Which is there. And again, I can't stress enough, safety. Our safety comes first. Yes, we wanna help the animals, but again, we don't want anyone who's trying to help them becoming part of the problem.
Okay, so we understand a little bit where the animal is coming from. There are 3 barriers or spheres that are around most of the animals. So the very first one is called their
Right.
thank you, light. So when you are walking and approaching to catch this bunny, there's going to be a certain distance around him that he'll let you keep coming. And then all of a sudden, once you hit whatever that distance is, and it changes for different animals or different species, he's going to go like, oh my God, he's too close, I'm taking off. So that's flight, or, you know, a bird. They will try and fly if they can. They're going to only let you come so close to them. Then the next sphere is
Social.
thank you, is the social one, which is like, okay, I'll let other bunnies come in and greet over here, you know, without panicking. But again, a human, if you can make it through the flight without them taking off, then you have to approach the social one. And then finally is the personal sphere. Only siblings and
Beaks.
sorry, siblings and mates are allowed here. Okay, they don't even let other bunnies come in, or you know, whatever the species is. So where do we have to go? We have to enter that personal space in order to catch that animal. So, and just so you kind of understand, these are the 3 things that we have to bypass before we can actually get to that animal. Okay, so who in here would like to explain to me how you would approach getting this duck? What way are you going to come? What are you going to do? And then we'll have the other ones critique it. We'll see what you learned. Any volunteers? Come on, there's got to be a brave soul out there. You're all brave souls to be in here.
They come in by the tree.
I'm sorry, what?
They come in by the tree.
Okay, so which way would you approach this duck? From the road? Okay. Okay, so we're going up in front of the duck and trying to back him into the tree. Do we agree with that?
I wouldn't.
Okay, go for it.
I have ducks, and the first thing they're gonna do is head for water. I don't care if they're stressed, happy, sad, anything. And if it's a deep pond, maybe you couldn't get them.
Yeah.
So I agree with by the road for sure, but I would kind of go between the road and the pond, because I know the fence is broken, but if they get in the water, they're so wily to get out.
Oh, yeah. So are you saying you would approach from here?
In that direction, yes.
Going up to the duck. Okay. Any other comments? Yes.
So I go from the bottom right and steer to the back of the fence.
I'm sorry, the bottom boundary by the road?
You go this way.
From the road up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you guys are right. We want to push them probably toward the fence. If there is a hole in there, maybe you can sneak a kennel cat there ahead of time. And I mean, maybe he can go in that direction if he feels like he can scoot through the hole, or you could have a kennel cab along the fence. But you're right, so our obstacles to keep him away from would be the road and the pond, because if he's in the pond, we're not gonna get him. It would be nice to chase him to the tree, but I agree with her. It's gonna, 99% of the time, it'll go for water. That's its protection. Yeah, do you have anything?
Nope. Everything goes for the water pretty much, especially the water birds. That is safety. So being a volunteer for WOW and your conduct, some of the do's and don'ts. When you go somewhere, you do identify yourself that you're with Wildlife of Wisconsin and you're a volunteer and you're here to do a rescue, or you may be going knocking on a door saying, I'm here to take and pick up a box with the bird in to take and transport it. Do present a positive image. So no bad language, no bad attitude. Don't make policy statements. If the press is there, just give them the facts of what you're doing. But volunteers don't give out in public what they think the organization should be doing or what they aren't doing. That's not the purpose of a volunteer. So definitely a do not. Do hand out the general brochure in admit envelope.
That, I have that in,
Well, we can show you them later, but we do give out the general brochure, which you see there, but we also include in it an admission envelope, which includes a number, which is their patient number. So there's instructions on what they can do to find out what has happened to it at the end of the season. It also gives them an opportunity to donate to help us take care of the animals. And if someone does take and give you a donation, graciously say thank you, take it, and just pass it on to the rehabilitator, and it goes in the books and it does get logged. Ask if anybody is bitten or scratched. And this is important. And you must get the name, address, phone number, age, location of the bite or scratch on the body, circumstances of the bite or scratch of anyone bitten or scratched by the animals you are picking up or rescuing. This information gets turned over to the rehabilitator immediately. Every time you rescue or pick up a mammal, ask the client if they or anyone else was bitten or scratched. I mean, yes, we know bats, the silver-haired one, is one of our main rabies vectors, but that doesn't mean even the little baby raccoon hasn't been in a den where there might be something in the feces and where he's living. You can never tell. So we need to know every time if something like that happens, and that's for everybody's safety, for the people who may be handling the animals, for the rescuers, but also that we can report it so people are aware that, you know, things are happening out there that might not be great for everybody. Do not make treatment or release commitments or make medical or veterinary judgments. So even though you may be doing this for quite a while, if you're going to do a rescue and pick up an animal, sort of like with the other ones, they'll say, oh yeah, it doesn't look that bad, it can be released. Just give it some time. Remember, this is still stress on the animals. Nothing is guaranteeing that that'll even make it to the facility. Because of the stress of being handled, it might not. Do not give human health advice. That one's one of them common sense things. The only thing I can say you probably can, if somebody was bitten or scratched, you get all the information, wash it, soap and water right away, contact your physician. That's what the advice from us is going to be to them. Do not give improper information. Don't guess what an animal is. If you don't know what it is, I don't know what it is. That is a good answer. I still use that a lot. I do not know a lot of my birds. No, sorry, I don't know what it is. Baby animals, baby squirrels, baby bunnies, they can all look very similar if you're not someone who handles them like Sue does all the time to know what they are. Do not trespass. We are not the DNR. We do not have the authority to go anywhere without permission. So if the animal is in this neighbor's yard and it called you and you go to get it and he goes to the neighbor's yard, you're gonna have to knock on the door, say, can I go in your yard to take and get this animal? I will leave it at that, and if you get the animal and it was, we have a picture of a bunny in a well, a window well, and you pick it up and you release it, or if when you get there, it's already passed, just let the rehabilitator know. It does go in the records, we do keep track of that. So safety equipment, there's quite a list of things that we use for taking and catching animals, and some of the ones we do have here as examples. And I always like going through this because the kids get a kick out of it. So washing our hands, soap and water is the first thing we do to keep ourselves safe. After that, little vinyl rubber gloves. These take and keep a lot of the really nasty things that a wounded animal may get on us and help make us sick. Light leather gloves, little squirrels, bats, small possums. These can be used for a lot of different things when catching little wildlife. So it keeps you from getting harmed. So this leather is tough enough to take and keep those little squirrel teeth from you, from the little talons on small birds from getting to your skin. But we get them bigger. So when we started wildlife rehab, welding gloves from Fleet Farm, this was told to be our mainstay. Just get some that fit really nice. They will protect you, and for many years, these protected us from wildlife. But just as most everyone knows, they're sewn together and there's a seam, and the seam is from the outside to the inside, and I'm on the inside. And after being taloned one too many times through that seam, we said we need something more. $10 wasn't enough. So we did get bigger. These are bird handling gloves. These are mammal gloves. So the mammal gloves have 2 layers of leather on the outside. So they have something to get their teeth into before they get to me. Even though, you know, they're disabled, they're hurt, they can still bite fingers and they can still crush bones. So we need to give them something to take and get a hold of. And also the way they're built, there's 2 layers of leather. So from the seam on the outside, they can't get directly into me. There's another layer of leather there to take and help stop a talon from getting through. But unfortunately, wildlife doesn't stop there. Wildlife gets bigger. These are my largest gloves. These are my eagle gloves. Sort of like with the mammal gloves, there's an outer glove that they can grab hold of with their beaks, with their feet. Eagle's foot can take and crush my bones through this glove. So this gives them something to hold on to when they're angry. And there's enough stuff here to take and protect me all the way up to my shoulder. So I can feel safe when I'm getting an injured animal. It's stressed, it's angry. But we went from $10 at Fleet Farm to $200. But this is my personal protection. This is worth it for me to take and help these animals. Nets, like we said, this is well used. It's an extendable one. Just about everything we can go after. If we can get into a net, it stops it in its tracks. We can put a towel over it, a blanket, but as long as we can stop it, even if it's just for a goose to get this over its head, just stopping its head will stop the animal. So being collapsible and taken apart, it can fit in the trunk really easy. I can't say they're really expensive, but they come in handy. But like I said, when you have an animal, it seems like this is a trigger that says, this isn't good. I'm going to take off. I got to go. A catch pole. If you do volunteer to do rescues, we have plans for a simple to make at home catch pole. This is a commercially available one. So this one is built that when you pull it, there's a little clutch in there that keeps it in. But even though it can provide me safety, used wrong, it can be harmful for the animals. So if this gets used, it has to go over the head and at least one limb. So when you take and pull this in, it doesn't strangulate them. So this isn't, snare pole isn't something just to take and say it's my go-to thing. Also, a lot of things will slip through this really quick. So it's not always an easy to use thing, whereas the net, you know, pretty much if we don't have holes in it, works really good. Safety goggles, glasses, we'll see when we go through the animals that they said the things like the herons that find their food, basically they look for the eyes of a fish and they aim for them. If you're looking in a crate and there's a bird like that in there and they poke you in the eye, you are no longer healthy, you know, so safety goggles, glasses, face shields. You know, these are things that are going to protect us from an animal that is going to do that unexpected thing and look at harming you to take and get away. Nets, catch poles, cat tongs, snake hooks. I don't have a pair of cat tongs, but basically it's just a contraption that, you know, can take and not quite rough of a neck thing, but at least control the head of an animal to take and let you catch it safely. If you do become a rescuer, you would get a copy of our rehabilitation license. If you would be found, and we have never had this happen yet, if you would be found driving with this animal in the car by the DNR and said, what are you doing with that? It's like you can say, I'm a volunteer, here's the license of the rehabilitator I'm working with. It just helps you, but we've never had an issue. The DNR and the sheriff are pretty good with a lot of things, but it's just to take and help CYA, and you'd be given brochures and envelopes to take and give to people as you would meet them.
Yeah, well, one thing I did want to mention, so when going after this animal, if, say, I'm sorry, what is your name? Teresa. So say I'm going to try and catch Teresa, I don't just approach and try and get her with a net. Okay, you got to be smarter than Teresa. So you kind of just like, oh, look at this grass, looks good, and you know, just kind of sidestepping. Don't directly approach her. You know, kind of make it that you're just goofing around. Look at the beautiful sky. Oh, she's still there, okay? You know, so just sidestep, trying to get the animal.
Okay, so we'll take a quick break, but
Were you gonna have Chris talk first?
we're gonna introduce two of our volunteers from down in the area. So we have Dana up in the front, who's done a couple of rescues for us, and Chris in the middle. I don't know if either one of you'd like to take and say a little bit of your experiences and stuff dealing with rescuing.
You can come on up, one of you guys.
Or both.
Or both.
On the spot.
My name is Chris. I've been doing this about, for about 10 years, I think now.
I think it's longer than that.
I don't know. I caught a red-tailed hawk in a box and called you guys, and you came and took it. And I just said, you know, if you ever needed help, that I'd be willing to help with transport.
That was his mistake.
Yeah. And it's been interesting. Every call, every text I get, it's always interesting. And it's really fulfilling to do. I'd have to say, you know, being able to help the animals, and the people that you meet, the people who are the ones that are calling in. In a lot of situations, it's actually surprising when you go and meet those people, because there's times where you meet them and you just think, well, this, you know, if you met them in a different situation, these aren't the people that you necessarily think would be caring about the animals or calling in about the animals. But they're always, you know, they're always there. They're always really helpful. Meeting police officers and firemen, and I mean, we've gotten calls from all different people, and I've had to go meet lots of different government people, DNR and wardens, and it's really fulfilling, and just being able to help the animals. I mean, there are times where you get there and you see the animal and you immediately know it's not going to make it, you know, but like still kind of, you know, going through it and being able to do what you can. And there's been a lot of interesting situations. Again, you never know what you're gonna get into when you get the call. And getting the information is really important because there's a lot of times where you get there and what you've been told, what you've been told and pass along to me is kind of close to what is happening, but not always what's happening. Or like the person who called it in isn't there anymore and they passed it to somebody else. And then, so there's a lot of going back and forth and talking to different people and, really having to read the situation and kind of see just with the people alone that you're talking to, but then what the animal's doing. And then, like you said, not having people right next to you when you're trying to catch something, you don't need a crowd of people right there. And so just kind of dealing with all that, it's been, it's been good. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of different things. So we're always happy to do it. And my little boys have grown up now. Whenever I get a call, if they're home still, I just say there's an animal emergency and they just go run in and get their shoes on and jump in the truck and like they're ready to go. And they love to just be able to sit in the truck and watch and be able to, see the different animals and help the different animals. And it's kind of amazing the things that the animals get caught in that you have to go and, help them out and get them out of. So, yeah, it's a great thing to do. So, but it is, safety is key because you get into some situations where you really have to be paying attention as to what's going on, and or in places where you maybe shouldn't be, but, but you really want to be able to do whatever you can to help that animal. So,
Thank you, Chris.
yeah.
So we're gonna take a, do you have anything, Dana?
Oh, that's okay. I couldn't.
Oh.
Because-
So we're just gonna take a quick break till 1:15. One thing Chris did touch on, a lot of things may not make it, and one of the important jobs that we have as rehabilitators is euthanasia. So to help that animal out of its suffering is a part of the task that we take care of on our side. So quick break, and I do have some feet of some birds up here that we do, capture. And if you do touch them, the big ones have been dulled, so they don't hurt young kids who like playing with them, but the little one has not. So these are some of the things that those gloves are there to take and protect us. So 1:15, maybe just a little. Thank you.
And the rest is got pictures, so it won't be
Yeah.
boring stuff.
And it's probably gonna go quick, so we'll get you out of here on time. But it's a lot of different situations.
No, I'm fine.
Oh,
It's very. Like yesterday, I think it's just. I don't know, that because he's on sleep. Or sleep is sleeping. So kind of. I was like, I'm setting my alarm every 2 hours. Oh, that would be good. See, that's why I'm thinking. I guess he's totally fur. He has, yeah. And he's a boy. His name is Todd. I do.
It looks like okay. So I don't So usually, and I don't know what they. So. Very nice. If something is on your end, it's just a big fight. No, that's, I'm really trying the capacity. So I would be. I read them.
Okay. Quickly go through some of these patients that we may be going to take into rescues with. So starting out with the birds, passerines and non-passerines. Their defenses, beaks, nails, and flight. So some of the songbirds, the cardinals, the crows, their bites aren't real fun. I mean, that is like having a crab pinch you in the finger, but they have very strong jaws for breaking open seeds and stuff. So capture and restraint, a towel, a net to take it over it is, you know, again, the net and the scaring thing, but you know, if you can get them in a corner and toss a towel over it and just gather it up, get its wings folded into its body, that is, you know, comfortable for them. It reduces their stress. Some of these birds, you know, when they're small like that, if you need to hold them by their feet, we need to keep the legs from going straight together. So we'll end up putting our finger between their legs just to keep the spacing between them so they don't get hurt. We tend to not to want to use bare hands on the feathers because the oils on our hands are not good for birds' feathers. So to be using gloves or again, that towel around it just so we can keep our hands off of their feathers as much as possible. Anything else? Okay, waterfowl, ducks, geese, swans. Their beak, they can pinch. They don't bite and rip skin. Their nails are nice and strong. They have strong wings. Geese and swans are notorious for using their wings to beat on people, to take and scare them away. And trust me, that wrist is very hard and it can hurt pretty good. And again, they will take off. And flight can either be they can fly, just a broken wing, or flight can be jump into that puddle of water, something that they feel comfortable and safe in. To take and control them, get the head and can start controlling the head. Once you control the head, the rest of the bird will take and follow it. Putting a towel over its head, it now becomes very dark. It becomes very comfortable. And scooping it up, getting your arm around its wings to hold both of its wings together and hold its feet. If its feet are working and it's kicking, those nails are just like what a dog would have, and they can take and do some damage. So lightweight gloves, net, towels. Waterfowl and sewers. Every year, the ducks are in the sewers. We do not go down storm drains. The organization does not. So mother duck has hatched her young one. She's heading for water. Sometimes the water can be a mile away and she's walking through the city. hits the storm drains, the little ones end up down inside, and as a rehabilitator, we're gonna take a net, and we do have some, basically like a, what am I thinking of, a little dip net for fishing, for getting minnows onto a long pole to reach down through that grating to take and try to scoop them up and get them into a box. Oops. Okay, and the mother duck is listening to her young one. She is in that area. When they're in that storm drain, she's normally nearby. She's trying to get her little ones to come back to her, but they're not. If we think it's gonna be easier with the storm drain open, and it just happens to be during the day when the Public Works Department is there, a couple of calls can normally get someone out there from Public Works to pull the storm drain open. And we can get them easier, but again, we do not go into anything. Anything else?
Well, so say you caught those ducklings and mom is nearby. Obviously, she's not gonna be right by you. So you can either do one of two things. Either if you can capture her, but if it's a very open road, you're not gonna catch her. A lot of times what we have done already is with the ducklings in a box, walk across the road or whatever direction is the closest water. And mom will literally follow you. Sometimes we've had her fly overhead and land ahead of us. She wants her babies as much as you want her to have them. So it's usually fairly good, easy to get them reunited. If not, or so if she is, say you're near water or a safe place now where you can put them, and mom is still there, once she lands, she has to be on the ground, then you can tip the box over and she'll make one squawk and they come run into her. If for some reason she takes off and you never see her, you're gonna have to bring those babies in.
So the water birds, herons, egrets, grebes, loons, cormorants, gulls, mergansers. Again, birds, beaks and nails, and these birds have very long necks that they use for their feeding. So that becomes one of those things we need to watch out for. So these are especially getting a towel or a blanket over their head and grab the head with the beak first. You need to control that because that's what's going to take and get you hurt. Scoop it in like with the goose, trying to get that bird into your body, controlling the wings up against you. And I like this, herons, cranes, kingfishers will go for your eyes, so face shields, goggles, or safety glasses should be worn no matter how stupid it looks. This is your personal protection. These birds do not want to take and be there. Vultures. Beaks, feet some, but they don't have talons like the other raptors do because they do not hunt for food. Their wings, just like in the geese, and the favorite one, projectile vomit. So one of the ways this turkey vulture wants to get away is if there's a fox coming after it, is to regurgitate its food because there's lunch for a fox. Let them eat that while he can take off and fly. And he gets a little bit lighter so he can fly. Again, trying to take and get that head restrained first because that beak is what's going to do most of the damage if he gets it close to you. And wearing heavy gloves, goggles, and having a towel or a blanket with you. The other raptors, sharp talons, beak, do work with someone who can help you because these guys are one of the biggest hazards that we have to deal with. You've seen some of the equipment that I use to take and handle some of these guys. So even if it's just an extra set of eyes to take and make sure you're safe and wearing the appropriate gloves to take and keep you safe. So needle sharp talons, they can puncture, they can, it's basically a knife. If it goes in and moves, it can take and slice a person. Deep puncture wounds, serious injuries, and not just their feet because they rip their food with their beaks. Their beaks aren't any better. So it's both ends of these birds are a hazard. If you do get a talon, if they do grab you, part of the structure, the way they're put is when they're holding on and they pull their legs in, it tends to lock those talons down and they hold on really tight, is to take and stretch that leg out and peel the talons open. And again, you're gonna take and need medical treatment after that. Heavy leather gloves. Welding gloves can be used, but again, to have something extra between you and the bird is gonna be better, so to take and have a towel or a blanket to put over it. So those talons can be entangled in that material, and you can still have gloves to grab hold of the feet and control it, and the head can be under the blanket, would be best. Like, and these are one of those that you need to be aware that they can do things you're not ready for. This raptor is cornered, he's running away, and while you're going to pick him up, all of a sudden he may be on his back with his talons up in the air. So this is not a fun thing. So by grabbing the feet, again, the middle picture showing having something between the legs so you don't take and dislocate the hips. And then once you have control of the feet, is controlling the head. Turtles. Hard beaks, sharp claws, to restrain them, grab them by the sides, and except for snapping turtles, yes, you can pick them up from the sides and just give them support, like gloves. Snapping turtles, these are our dangerous one, long necks, beaks that are designed to take and break through things to eat. Grab them by the shell right above the tail to control them, a hand sliding underneath them to lift them up and get them into a container. We have never tried the plunger method, but we do everything we can to keep our hands anywhere from the sides or the front, because they can reach around the side and they can grab you. Snakes, they do have teeth. We do not have poisonous snakes in this part of Wisconsin, so we have not been concerned with it. Again, we just need to control that head, get it into a pillowcase. Once it's into a pillowcase, get it into a box, get it to a rehabilitator. Raccoons. So we do not, in Wildlife in Wisconsin, do adult raccoons. We can't do skunks by state law, and we don't have permits to do bear, and we don't have any in the area. But again, their defense is their sharp teeth. Young raccoons, we can grab them by the scruff of the neck. Juveniles is to try to get them to get into a crate or using a snare pole to take and capture them so they can get in for help. So heavy gloves, towel, net, snare poles. Bats. Again, their teeth, net or towel, wearing light leather gloves to take and keep those teeth and nails from taking scratching you or biting you. And I wanted to have a thing to show you. I mean, their bones are very fragile, so we need to be very careful with the way they're caught. And if they're on a wall or on a curtain, you can take and just put a coffee can or a Cool Whip dish and just slide something between it and that container and get it into a container right away, so we don't have to have hands on it all. And because the bats and raccoons could be our main rabies vectors, if you want to do that, we would recommend you get pre-exposure for rabies to take and make sure you are ready to handle that.
Raccoons do not have rabies in Wisconsin, so you do not need to worry about that.
But people are always concerned. Mammals, the rodents, squirrels, chipmunks, woodchucks, muskrats, teeth and claws, teeth that are designed for chewing into hard substances. So again, that's where we're going to be really watching out, is to keep the teeth from us. So to get a towel over it, control the head, wrap it around the body to contain the whole thing, or getting a snare pole to take and keep those teeth from you. Light gloves for young ones, heavy gloves for adults, snare poles, nets. Again, we're trying to keep those teeth from us, but we're also trying to avoid being scratched. Rabbits, they want to run. Never had a rabbit bite us, but their flight response can be such that by them trying to escape, they can injure themselves by trying to get away. So we are trying to reduce stress on them as much as we can. So as soon as we can get their heads covered, We want to cover their eyes. We want to take and support them so they don't injure themselves. So just gloves, towel, and a net. Possums, their teeth and their nails, their claws. So they do have 50 teeth. They are all razor sharp. They do not have molars like humans do. So every tooth in their mouth is a sharp edge. So we need to take and make sure for young ones that have light gloves, the adults, we need heavy duty gloves, a towel, something to take and get layers between us and them to keep
Your
us safe.
attention, please. The library will close in 30 minutes and all services will end, including checkout and other computer services. Please check out all materials prior to that time.
You can control them by grabbing them, their tail by close as you can to their body. The tip of their tail isn't designed to support them, contrary to all the nice cartoons out there. But you can hold and get them by the base of the tail and control their head to take and get them into something where they can be protected like a crate. Fawns, legs, antlers, and again, flight. If possible, have a group of people to take and try to get these guys to try to surround it. Take and give it no place where it can get away, but have one person designated that as you close in on it, they can grab it. That will be their job, is to be the one to take and pick it up and get something over its head to start covering its eyes, covering its ears so it can take and calm down. The bad thing with deers is they want to run, they want to get away, and just by running, their metabolism starts to change and they can be injured internally just by running and running too much. So if you can't catch them really quick, it's going to be leaving alone. It has to calm down. It may need the next day before trying to get this guy again if it needs help. But then again, if the young fawn can run, it probably doesn't need a lot of help. So there's a lot of advice up on the front end to make sure these young guys are not fawn napped because mom may be around somewhere. So hopefully all of that will be covered before you get a call to take and try to get one of these guys. Fox, teeth and claws. Adults would only be an experienced animal rescue person. The young ones, using the cat tongs, scruff of the neck, snare poles. Again, we're just trying to take and control the head so they don't take and injure us and try to get them into a container. Having, again, that net to catch them and a towel to wrap around their bodies. And give them something extra to bite into if they want to take and do that. Things trapped in a window well. So bunnies, raccoons, young ones, they all tend to walk around and don't realize that great big hole isn't something they're not supposed to be in. So we would normally take and put a rough piece of lumber in there, depending what it is, a thick rope, something they can take and climb up if they're capable of climbing. Things like these bunnies would most likely be go down in the window well, get a net, pick them up, just release them outside the window well and ask the homeowner, can you please take and get a cover, keep things from going down here. Do not attempt to do something you are not comfortable with or capable of. So you can imagine what this guy would be like if he was really, really angry. And I'm holding him as far as I can, and if he wanted to, he could turn his beak up and he could still catch me on the chin if he would like to. Any questions?
How heavy is that?
Is that 8 pounds, 9 pounds?
Yeah, so they range usually from, like 7 to 12, but most of them are 8 or 9. So if anybody is interested, so I'm sorry if this scared you. If you are interested in helping become a rescuer or transporter or both, fill out that rescue information sheet. We will actually get a manual to you. If we have your email address, we'll send you a PDF. So we save on the trees, otherwise we'll mail it to you. We have like the card to ask, the people if you are injured, and Dana and Chris will make sure you guys get that. So feel free, ask any questions if you have any.
If not, then we think, yep, yes.
What is your jurisdiction? Like, what are your boundaries?
So we used to just do Manitowoc, Calumet, and Sheboygan counties, but with COVID, a lot of the Fox Valley is closed, and so now we have 8 counties that we're dealing with. So this is just one piece of the puzzle down here. And-
So we don't expect you to go from here all the way up to Washington. Usually, and again, I believe on that rescue information, you can put how many miles you'd rather. If you only want to go like 10 miles around your home or whatever, that's fine. Usually, like with Chris or Dina, I usually meet them halfway. And, you know, but we can figure out something, whatever fits with you. You know, if you're interested in driving all the way to Madison, we were and brought a little woodcock all the way down there to go with another one. I mean, you know, you just have to let us know on that form. Otherwise, we won't even bother you with, you know, really far stuff or anything.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight, and hopefully we'll see some of you with some animals.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you guys.
Thank you.